guys, it's Rachel. I've missed you. I know it's been a couple of weeks since I made a video. I've been on holiday and it was like amazing. I had like 2 weeks in the south of France, and the first kind of 5 days it was a bit miserable, a bit humid, but then after that we had some really nice weather, so it was really good to just kind of hang out and just kind of enjoy being away and enjoy the heat and such. So yeah, I'm back now. I got back late on Thursday last week, and I was hoping to have got home a bit sooner to make a video, and I just didn't have a chance. If you can hear noise, it's rain. It's like hammering it down here, so if there's like a strange noise in the background, that's what it is. This week we're going to be looking at comments made by others towards us with regards to weight, appearance, food, eating habits and that type of thing. I've been kind of out of the loop a little bit, so I'm not too sure of exactly the central idea behind the topic, but I'm going to just do my best to kind of interpret it and make sense of it for you all. Comments from other people is something that is inevitable, and it is something that you're not going to be able to avoid. So once I've maybe kind of highlighted the kinds of comments that can be made towards us, maybe I can try and offer some support and some advice concerning how I dealt with that type of thing. Initially, when you start to recover, and it isn't always, because to me recovery is more of a mindset than kind of a physical thing. And even if you're still using behaviours, if you can still have a recovery mindset. And in the early days of my illness, I was trying to recover, and my head kind of was semi in a recovery place, but I wasn't strong enough inside to deal with some of the comments that came my way. And when I first got help, I was so self-conscious about what I would eat. I was so scared of what people would think of me. I was scared that people would think that I ate too much, or I would be scared that somebody would almost be laughing at me because all I was having was, say, a piece of fruit or something, when other people were eating normal amounts of food. And so it was something that I very much kept to myself, as I'm sure a lot of our viewers here do. That it's not just about rituals, it's about a really horrible feeling that people are watching you, people are watching you eat, people are studying you, judging you, casting opinion on you. And we kind of become incredibly paranoid when we're struggling with our eating disorder, not just with regards to food or eating. We're self-conscious about ourselves. We feel so uncomfortable in our own skin that we think that everybody's looking at us. We think that people are judging us. I know that, my head could be so irrational at times that if I'd eaten something, even something very small, and I went out, I felt like everybody could see that I had eaten. And there is no rationale behind that. There is no way that another person can tell whether another person's eaten or whether they haven't. But inside my head, I felt that everybody knew, and I almost felt ashamed of that, and that was a really difficult thing for me. And that, alongside feeling incredibly self-conscious when I did eat, made it very, very difficult. It made me very, very isolated. I became so aware of people, certainly when I was in recovery and I was trying to not use behaviours. It was almost like if I'd eaten, I would purposely even, stay at the table just to prove to people that I was actually keeping food down or whatever. I was conscious then, so even in recovery, not just in illness, I was conscious of what people were thinking. I would be scared if I went to a restaurant and I ate, that if I went to the toilet that people were thinking the worst of me, because nobody trusted me. And that was a very, very difficult thing to break, and people would often pass comments on whether I was eating too little or what have you. And what becomes frustrating within that is when a person is trying incredibly hard to help themselves, they might not eat a normal amount, But if they are in a place where they are trying to eat, trying to increase their intake, you need to be very wary of not criticizing that person, because if they are trying to manage this the best way they can, that to me is what matters. The amount of energy, the amount of try in what you are doing. If you are trying in recovery to eat, it might not be deemed sufficient, it might not be deemed normal, but if you are trying to eat and you're trying to move yourself forward, I think that the people around us have to be very, very careful to not criticize that and kind of be like, oh, is that all you're having? Because that in itself can impact a person, because they think, well, that's what they think, so what's the point of me eating? What would perhaps be a better way to help somebody with that would be to say, I'm really proud of you for managing this amount, but do you think there's any way you could perhaps add this to it? And so if somebody is negative about the amount that you're eating, I would try and just hear my voice now saying to you that if you are trying, that that's good enough. What I don't want you to do is think that just because a person sees that you are trying and accepts part of that, because that's what happens with me and some of my friends. I do have to let some of it go. I do have to appreciate that they're trying, but I also have to be the sounding board that goes, but you do realise that that isn't enough. And it's finding that balance between me saying, I respect that you're trying really hard to eat right now, but you do understand that your body might need more food because of you working more or what have you. And I think that we have to hold on to those people who can support us and who can understand us in that way, because it's very hard when the people around us are emotionally invested in our care and are worried about us, that quite often that voice coming from somebody else, and maybe you listening to me now, that's easier to hear than from, say, a close family friend, a mother, a parent, a fiance, a boyfriend, girlfriend, sister, brother, whichever, because they can sometimes approach us in a way that is more about emotions but not purposely. So with regards to food, that's kind of how I try to manage it, with regards to saying, no, this is what I'm doing. I try to keep myself in my head and would say, this is what I'm doing. I'm being honest with myself. I'm trying the hardest I can right now. I have some small goals in, say, what I want to achieve. By the end of the month, I'd like to have been able to add this food group or add this food. I'd like to be able to be having a little bit of this every day. I mean, a really simple example, I'm not going to get into sufficient amounts of all of this, but it's finding something that you do actually enjoy and allowing yourself to have that every day, even if it's a really, so let's say you love dark mint chocolate, I don't know, that's just a really random example, but you allow yourself to have a piece of that every day in your recovery. And so it's not all about all of it or nothing, it's about slowly adding moderation and adding little bits into your diet. With regards to comments on appearance, that is probably like the biggest trigger for people as well. I remember first coming out of hospital and the amount of comments that I got regarding my size and, oh, you look so much healthier, and look, you've even got, you know, your shape back, and it was just like hell on earth. I was so self-conscious. I came home and I couldn't recognise myself in the mirror. I would go back to the hospital and my mirrors were basically covered, and I'd come home and have to see myself again. It was incredibly difficult to adjust to that. I didn't know who I was anymore, and that can often be a big thing for people when they do gain weight through recovery, or even when they lose weight, so whichever way you're going. And you feel so self-conscious in yourself anyway that any comment, it's exaggerated because of how insecure you feel in yourself, because feeling secure in yourself takes years. I'm finally at a point where I feel pretty secure in myself, and someone made a comment about, I don't know, God, think of anything. I would just be like, well, if that's what you think, that's what you think. You know, if somebody called me fat, or if somebody made a joking comment about how much I ate or something, I'd just be like, well, they're your opinions and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So that's the place I'm in at the moment, and that's the advantage of being recovered, that whatever negative thing a person says to me, I can just kind of deal with that rationally. I'm not saying that some of the things people say to me don't upset me, because obviously there are things that people upset me with, but for the most part I'm like really safe in myself and feel very comfortable in myself. I know the most common thing for people is certainly staff, members of staff, from where they're being treated, you know, not having seen you for a while because you've not been on death's door in hospital and saying how well you look. And we all know that that is just like, judging how somebody looks is not going to tell you what's going on inside their head, or even tell you what's going on with their behaviours. Eating disorder sufferers are incredibly good at hiding what's going on. Many eating disorder sufferers remain a healthy weight or above healthy weight, even if they're slightly under. You know, people have this like idea that the only way you can have an eating disorder is by looking a certain way. People in all different ethnic races, backgrounds, classes, everything. You can't. People are different sizes, different shapes. Their struggles are different. No one person's struggle is the same, and so when people kind of make generalized comments, it can be very painful because they're not seeing you as an individual. I'm very aware of being a self-help group facilitator, that when I see people, that when I meet for the group, that if I have noticed a change, that I can express that to them. But for the most part, weight is never mentioned within the group. Even behaviours to an extent they're mentioned, but people are trying to deal with the difficulties they face with themselves, not just their relationships with others, but inside their own heads. They're trying to untangle some of what is going on, and that's what needs to be judged. So my advice, if comments are made to you, is to try and talk about them with somebody who understands, whether that's the channel here, whether that's your self-help group facilitator, or if you have a therapist. There's always a means of contacting me, of contacting other members of the channel to gain advice, and sometimes that advice is better when it comes from us, because we can understand and appreciate where you're coming from. And all I will say to you is that if you're in recovery, try and, I don't know how to describe this. I've got one of my members of my group going into hospital, and she's anxious about it in case she's going to be triggered by other people, and I've just kind of said to her, you just need to keep, not a tunnel vision, but that kind of thing. Whatever's going on around you, whatever one of the patients are doing, whatever, you just have to be in there and focus on you, and that's what matters. And that's what matters in your recovery, is you and how you feel, and that's what matters, and that's what you have to hold on to. So whatever comment someone is making, hold on to what is true to you. And if you are struggling, or if you're upset with what somebody said to you, try and share that with somebody who you feel could understand that. I'm going to go now, guys, because I'm running out of time as well, and I've got quite a bit of uni work going on. So I hope this video has made some sense. Feel free to ask me any questions. Go over to my blog. You know, you can always message me, and I will try and get back to you as soon as possible. Take care, guys. Lots of love. Bye.